What's up guys and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing another Stephen King book review. This one is going to be The Dead Zone. This came out in 1979. I believe it has around 595 pages depending on which version of the book you have. I didn't know too much about this story going into it, and this is the version I have here. This one has sort of like a Ferris wheel ground in the background there, so that's quite cool. And so let's get into the review. So this story focuses on a young teacher named Johnny Smith who's also dating a colleague called Sarah, and one night they go on sort of a first date to the fairground. And what they do is they go on the Wheel of Fortune, which is one of those things where it's like sort of like blackjack, where you pick a number and if you throw it and you hit that number you win a shit ton of money. And basically Johnny Smith has these instincts where he knows the right numbers in his head and he just seems to be winning and winning. And this gives us a first glimpse into the idea that he may have the shining or just some sort of gift which helps him to know what's going to happen. Shortly after this, Johnny Smith is involved with a serious accident, and when he finally recovers it seems that his gift has been heightened dramatically and he seems to be able to see things that are going to happen in the future just by touching people. Now it seems pretty basic in this instinct, but there's a lot to this story. It's very heavily political, which is something I have no really big knowledge of politics, especially American politics in the 70s, so a lot of this stuff did go over my head, but I did get the grasp of the story because it is a pretty big focus on the main overlining plot line of the book. So this book is split up into 3 acts. There's 3 stories here and they all have their own chapters, much like in The Stand, and each of them has a different focus, so it's kind of like a TV season, if you will. Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, they all have a following arc going through them, but they all seem to be their own sort of story. I'm trying not to go into too many spoilers in this one, and I am going off the top of my head because it was about a month ago when I finished the book, but some of the main things that stuck with me during this book is just the character Johnny Smith. I loved Johnny Smith and his relationship with Sarah. It was quite heartbreaking at times, especially with the graveness of this accident and what happens to Johnny. Something that happens overnight that can have such a big difference in multiple people's lives, and it's just really heartbreaking to watch. And especially with Johnny's recovery, we see how he's going through all these kinds of surgeries and just mental problems he's going to have to deal with the results of the accident. And it's really good to see his progression through the book as he grows and develops and regains some of his humanity after what happened to him. What's weird about this book is there's also a secondary character which we don't really know too much at the start, and the book actually starts with them. This is a character called Greg Stillson, and he seems to be someone who has major power issues and he's trying to get himself higher and higher up in the world. This goes along with the politics, and it's weird how these 2 sections of the book kind of don't have any relevance with each other. We just keep going in between the 2, so it's kind of a guessing game about how they're going to work together. So I thought that was really well done, how they kind of intersected these 2 characters in a way that we had no idea how they were related. By the end of the book it makes a lot of sense. One of the coolest things in this book as well is obviously Johnny's gift and how it's used, and I love the way that they brought it into the public eye, with people trying to sort of use his powers for their own personal gains, or people who have missing loved ones, or people who have died and they want to find out what happened. And we do get a few segments in the book where Johnny actually does respond to that, and he's getting a lot of people coming to his door and sending in messages or mail trying to get him to help, and it's like a burden on Johnny. So we get this whole different aspect of the story where we're seeing how fame or infamy can actually affect like a normal person who's just been thrown into this situation. I found that one of the stories was more interesting than the others, and this one had to do with a murder case, and this actually went to Castle Rock. I believe this is the first Castle Rock story in Stephen King's bibliography, so this is the first time we see it. We don't get too much time there, it's not the main focus of the book, and we get the story of this murderer, and we get to see them going around killing them from their own perspectives, and it's really fun to see that. It's very brutal and very dark. That's one of the most dark parts of the story. It seems to be on a different level from the other parts with Johnny and Greg Stillson, which also comes as one of my biggest disappointments with this story, which is not really a disappointment, it's just more of a disappointment at the fact that this wasn't the total focus of the story. I would have loved to have seen this sort of cat and mouse story throughout the whole thing, with Johnny using his skills to try and find the killer, and the killer using his abilities to try and evade Johnny and his power. So I thought that would have been more interesting than what happened, but overall the main story was still great, and I think this is one of the stories that has quite a satisfying ending. I know a lot of his stories seem to just end and you're not expecting it to end so suddenly. This one has a wrapped up arc, and that's a really good thing in this book. The character Greg Stillson is very despicable, and Stephen King always knows how to write a great villain or a great anti-hero, and there's no different here with Greg Stillson. He is just a piece of shit, and honestly he reminds me a lot of a certain president in this day and age, and a lot of people have said that, and it's crazy how much of it lines up with actually what's going on today. A lot of people have said that this story is more optimistic than what happens in reality with this so-said president. So this has been my review for The Dead Zone. Like I said, it's not your typical Stephen King story. It's not a straight up horror, it's not Salem's Lot, there's no vampires or Pennywise. It's more of a human story, and it's more of a smaller story with a select few characters that we get a lot more depth into. So I really liked that aspect, and it worked in their favour because I really loved the relationship between Johnny Smith and his family and his friends, and I just thought, yeah, Johnny Smith has been one of the characters that still sticks with me out of the books I've read so far. Let me know down below in the comment section what you thought of the novel of The Dead Zone. Let me know how you liked it, what you thought was the best part, the best characters. Do you agree with what I said? So hope you've enjoyed this video review. I'm currently reading Firestarter, so that will be my next Stephen King review coming up. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.